Well, welcome everybody to Her Aging Parents, Her Thriving Business. And I am so excited today to talk to my friend, to talk to my colleague, Beth Allison. So welcome, Beth. And I'm going to just tell them a little bit about you, and then I'm going to turn it over. So Beth is a calm, safe harbor for those navigating life's turbulent waters. I don't know about you, but I have been through some turbulent waters in my time. So how beautiful. When purposefully engaging with others, Beth is completely present, aligned, and sharing her magic. That is when her mind, body, soul, and spirit are alive and filled with joy. In 2020, she started Within You Coaching LLC to support those experiencing life transitions so that their journey can be made easier and with intention. So welcome, Beth.
Thank you, Wendy. It's so great to be here with you today.
I'm so happy you're here. I'm so excited. And would you tell us, how did you get this started? There's got to be a story behind this.
There is a story. And I was in corporate America for 35 plus years, and I did well. But I got to a point where it really wasn't filling me up anymore. And I was looking for something else to do, though I didn't know what it was. You kind of get into this is what it's supposed to be. And so I started thinking about what could I do? I was in my mid 50s. Retirement was close, but not really close. And I pursued a lot of things. And one of the things that I looked at was just downsizing my job. I had a lot of responsibility when I left corporate America. And then I said, well, that's not going to challenge me enough. And I thought maybe going back to school, and that wasn't really uberly thrilling as I looked into it.
Sure.
And then one of the fun things that I considered was buying a toy store.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
I got so serious that I signed the non-disclosure for the financials.
Yeah.
And then as I really considered it, I went back to what I was I call them priority pillars now. I use them with my clients who are going primarily through career changes or things like that, because this is what I did. So my mom had Alzheimer's, and that was starting to progress. My dad was the primary caregiver, so I wanted more flexibility to be able to support them. Again, as I said, my retirement was kind of there, but not there. So I wanted something that I could do as much as I wanted and then kind of dial it back into retirement. At the time, I was living in Connecticut, which is where I was born and raised. But I didn't feel like I was going to necessarily retire there. So it needed to be something that could up and move. Yeah. So it had to be that. And what was really important was not only did I want to be good at what I was doing, I wanted to feel good about what I was doing. And so those kind of were my 4 priority pillars. And so when I took a look at the store, it's retail, so there's not going to be more flexibility with my time.
Right.
And it was brick and mortar, so I couldn't up and move it. Right. So there's not a day that I wake up and go, gosh, I wish I bought that toy store. I feel badly because nobody bought it, and so it has since closed. But I don't ever look back because those were the things that were important for me. And then one day, Dr. Phil was on, and he was introducing a life coach, Mike Bear, and I was like, what the heck is a life coach?
Right.
And I find it so ironic now that when people don't really know what a life coach is, I'm like, how do you not know what a life coach is? Well, I didn't 5-6 years ago.
Right.
So I was getting ready to take my vacation at the beach. So I went to Barnes and Noble and picked up the handbook to life coaching, and 10 pages in, I was like, well, this is what I've been doing all my life.
Oh my gosh.
And so this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
So I got trained in it. I went through the program, and you come out and everybody's like, well, what's your niche going to be? Like, who are
Right.
you going to
That
go after?
niche. Mhm.
And I call it the niche swim of fish. You in, out, in, out, and you go
Right.
nowhere, right? You're
Yep.
just treading water. So I've done that quite a bit. And my mom passed away in May of 2020. So I started the business January of 2020. I had
Wow.
my grand opening March 5th.
Yeah.
Um, March 12th, the world shuts down. 2 weeks after, my mom falls at home and goes into the hospital. 7 weeks from that day, she ended up passing. So it was about 8 months ago now. I felt like there
Yeah.
was so much I wish I knew back then
Yep.
that I know now. And so, in addition to doing the career changes, that coaching, I'm also focusing on helping those who are caregivers. Um, and those, I have a soft spot for those who are caring for uh, loved ones who have dementia, Alzheimer's, or that type of thing, because it's so difficult. But I figure, how can I give back and how can I help those make that easier? It's never going to be easy, but how do you make it easier? And
Yeah.
so, really, it was Dr. Phil's show that, you know,
Dr. Phil started this.
he did. He did. And I'm glad he did. It was one of those things, I was just open to hearing things. And then I happened to hear it. It was like on in the background too. It's not like I
Oh,
was
wow.
intently watching. Yeah, it was, how like how certain things just happen and you hear what you're supposed to hear
Yeah.
when, yeah,
You for sure did.
yes.
Oh my gosh. I'm getting goosebumps. So yes, I resonate with what you're saying. Like, how can I give back? How can I help others? Because we're kind of in the same niche. I'll just throw that word out there, right? And that's how we got, this is the funny story, how we got connected twice. So
Exactly.
I don't remember who connected us the first time. Do you remember who it was?
Ah, I can see her. I can't put the name on it.
Okay.
Um,
Well, you're better than I am because I don't even have that much recall. But I know that Beth and we got connected from an introduction and we just hit it off. And you know how life goes. You just kind of had a great connection and that was it. And you were doing your thing and I was doing my thing. And then the second connection, I remember Molly and Deanna, maybe it was just Molly, shout out to Molly and Deanna, said, Wendy, you need to connect with Beth. Beth, you need to connect with Wendy. Okay, fine. And schedule it. And Zoom opens up and we're both like, oh my gosh, here you are again. So as a result of
to
that,
stay connected and not just go off our separate
yeah,
ways.
we are for sure going to stay connected. And Beth is now in the same community as I am, in my community, because I was like, I do not want to let this person out of my life again. And so since we're in the same niche and helping the same kind of type of people, Beth is one of my people in my group, and we're supporting each other and helping each other and just being there for one another. So it's, anyway, that's what we do.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and so tell me about an ideal client. Like who should we be looking for, listening for? Kind of like what you said with Dr. Phil. You had it on in the background. So who should we be listening for? What are the types of things they're saying and experiencing and struggling with?
They're in some cases they're at wit's end, right? It's gotten to that point that they don't really know what to do. They're stressed, they're not sleeping, they're having a hard time balancing all the things that are going on in their life, right? So only one aspect is caring for the loved one.
Right.
And when I say this, it's not only that they're doing the hands-on caring, right?
Mhm.
So for instance, my dad was the primary caregiver of my mom. I was kind of the secondary. I was really the
Yeah.
primary caregiver of my dad, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
it's, listening to those things or seeing them. My dad was getting tired, so I would start having conversations. Well,
Mhm.
you know, did you need some help and this and that? Well, she doesn't, and I get all the reasons why he's not doing it. My mother doesn't
Sure.
like people in her house, but everybody has their things. So it's really people who are wondering, is there a better way? It's like, I'm exhausted. I don't have time for myself,
Right.
right? Um, and then there's the whole, there's a whole host of emotions, like there's grief, there's resentment,
Mm-hmm.
there's anger. If they're feeling those things and just wanting a safe place to have those feelings, but also a constructive way of what can you do to alleviate that,
Right.
right? How do you make it less? You get somebody to come in for a few hours or a full day. Is the decision that it's time for them to move into a facility, right? No, they're never going to want to go, right? They're not. Reality, but is that truly the best place for
Mhm.
them? Not like there were things that when it came to it, I looked at my dad and I'm like, I can't make her take a bath or a shower.
Right.
Right. I'm like, but there are people who can do that. So why don't we have somebody come in? Yeah, she's not going to like it and she can get mad. She'll get mad at them, but you
I
know
love
what?
that.
They leave.
There are people that can do that. Absolutely.
Exactly. Right.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be you. It's not, and
Right.
for me, I was afraid I'm not a skilled caregiver like that. If I
Right.
held her wrong, she was very frail. If she slipped and fell and broke something, which she ended up falling and breaking her hip, right? But and also that wasn't the relationship I wanted to have with my mom,
Exactly.
right?
Same. Like, no.
Right? That's not it. Um, and that's okay. And you know what? For those of you who can do it and want to do it, and
Oh my
that,
gosh. Hats off to
God
you
bless you,
guys. Yeah.
right? And great. I like to make sure that people are aware that there are options,
Yes.
right? And in some cases, they may not have to leave the house, right? You could have
Right.
in-home care come in, right? But a lot of the things that I find, if you're finding that people are just reacting to, um, you know, whatever the situation was, they bumped into something and, then it was really difficult to get them to a doctor or those types of things, and they're reacting to things, right? There is no crystal ball to set a plan, as you know, right?
Right.
There, we
If there
don't
only
have that,
was.
but there are things to know, have in place, right? So as things happen, you're able to make more informed decisions. I'm not going to say necessarily better, but they're more informed decisions. Like,
Right.
do you know the finances? Do they have long-term care insurance? They don't have to, but it's a question to
Nice to know.
ask
Right.
because that impacts what the options are,
Really does.
right? So those are the things like I kind of working with uh my clients, it's kind of, do you know if they have that? Do you know what the insurance is? And I equate it to when you're buying a house,
Hmm.
right? You have a list of all the things that you want, and at the end of the day, you have a budget. You don't want your realtor, if you have $200,000 for a house, you don't want your realtor showing you a $250,000 house,
Right.
right? Because you can't afford that. it's similar. So understanding what the financial um, limitations are, what's
Mhm.
available, so that you don't go look at a facility that has all the bells and whistles. And at the end of the day, that's not an option,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? So that's
And
how
then
I
you,
equate
yeah.
that.
Yeah. And then, if you do that, then it's like, oh crap, I just wasted, a whole day and time spent traveling back and forth. But when you know that number, then you, okay, great. I'll look at these places, right? And what I
Exactly.
found super helpful for me, the last time that I placed my mother into a retirement community, she now lives 5 minutes from me. It's beautiful, but I had I don't know what her actual title is, but what she does is she's knowledgeable about the retirement communities in this area. This is what it costs. I tell her this is the budget, right? This is what we're looking for. And she's like, okay, do not go here. And here's why. Like she has the intel on these places. So I was just able to, she went with me to the meeting. She asked questions that I didn't even think about asking. Do you know what that
Yeah,
person's called? I can't think of the name.
senior care advocate.
That's probably it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you can
I've
find one
met
of
one of
those.
them here as well. I didn't even know that they existed,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Way back when, right? I moved to Virginia and I get part of this group, and I'm like, I didn't know that those people existed,
Right.
right?
And
And
now
what
you do.
exactly? And we had a conversation with her, with my dad, who's 88.
Oh.
He's an independent living, doing fine. But
Hmm.
we had that kind of conversation, of what and when he would like. And so she was knowledgeable about the different
Right.
areas. And, we've got where he is now is where he is going to stay um, as long as he can.
Yep.
But we didn't know what the other options were, right? And so, yeah, a senior care advocate is fabulous. And there are also, Wendy, what I didn't know about is, for instance, because you've got those loved ones who do not want to move, and you're
Yeah.
living in a different state,
Yep.
right? And they're in a different state, but so you're caring for them from a distance.
From a distance. Absolutely.
But there are companies and whatever that help in the logistics of that. So they'll get the house
Oh
set,
my
they'll
gosh.
sell it, they'll
Yes.
get them moved into the new place, they'll
Yeah.
provide, care. And, you again, to be, you don't have to physically be there, right? It's not an all or
Yes.
nothing kind of scenario. So you can
Absolutely.
still be very active in the care that they're getting, even
Right.
not living next door.
Right. And we both know Natalie. This is what she does for a living. She helps people relocate, pack, unpack. My gosh, this woman. I know another gal in Pennsylvania that does the same thing. And back to what the home care expert, right? So Beth and I know these people. We know, here's the thing, we know what you don't know. And
Exactly.
so this is why it's valuable to talk to us. It's going to save you time, it's going to save you stress. I kind of relate this to, you wouldn't, at least I sure as hell wouldn't. I wouldn't try to replumb my bathroom by myself because I am not the expert. I don't know what I'm doing. So it's kind of like, okay, your parent, you're caring from a distance, something has happened, you're caring for them on your own, you're trying to figure things out. Talk to someone that has been there, done that. Talk to Beth, talk to me, talk to somebody, because you don't have to do this on your own, nor should you.
You don't need to, and you shouldn't. And, we may not know a specific person, but we will know, like, look for a senior care advocate. There is probably one
Yes.
around you, right? Or, you know, we could contact Natalie to find out if there's somebody in that
Mhm.
area that they
Right.
live. Um, we don't have all the answers, but we have the resources that we can, you know,
Exactly.
pull from to be able to help in
Yeah.
navigating that, setting some type of plan.
'Cause We
Absolutely.
we have been there, we have done that, and we have learned a lot on the way. Um, one thing that's coming up for me, so I was having a conversation with a client and she says, you know, the mail at my parents' house, she goes to visit her parents. She's like 2 hours away. So she drives every Saturday and stays the weekend, comes home, right? She's like, you know what? This mail, they get it from the mailbox and it is everywhere. It's hidden under piles. It's on the sofa, it's in the kitchen, it's in the bedroom, it's everywhere. She's like, you know what? If I could just have someone come once a week, gather it all up, even open it, prioritize it. Hey, this is past due, this is right. And then hide it from my parents. And I said, I think what you're describing could be a professional organizer that specializes in financial, that specializes in paperwork kind of thing. I said, because what I know about these professional organizers is that they're typically licensed, bonded, insured, very trustworthy, very good with people. And she's like, oh my gosh. She got on the website, she found one in the area, done. So now when she goes to see her parents and drives the 2 hours there, right? She knows where the mail is, she can deal with it, but she's got extra time to spend with her parents.
Well, that's the thing. How do you want to be spending your time with your loved one, right? Is it, and I didn't want, like in my case, I didn't want to be doing the bathing,
Yeah,
and
same girl.
it just it and but there was a whole bunch of guilt and things that went along with that,
Of
right? I'm
course.
thinking, how
Yep.
many diapers did she change and how many runny noses did she wipe as I was growing up? But that was, the roles were different and not
Totally
necessarily
different.
totally,
Yeah.
you know, switched. It's in reversed. And so, and you know what? At the end of the day, I don't think she would have wanted me to do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I really don't.
My mom's the same way. She's like, nope, I don't want you doing this. I'm like, that's cool because I don't want to do it.
Yeah, and I let my dad know when we were going all that. I'm like, by the way, I can't do it for you either. So just, now, Dad.
Just so you know ahead of time, that's not happening. And we laugh, but seriously, to set those expectations ahead of time, or even if you don't have a chance to set them ahead of time, respect how you're feeling. Because if
Yeah.
you're trying to do this and you really don't want to do it, it's not going to go well.
Nope.
Uh, Trust me, because I am not a medical professional. They are very well trained, like Beth was saying, like how to pick a person up correctly. And I don't know any of that, nor do I want to know any of that. And having the right person to help your parent, it helps you to not feel guilty, stressed. Did I do this right? Did I do this wrong? Kind of thing.
There will still be, was that the right person and this and that. But you know
Yeah,
what? At the end of the day,
right.
um, they're the best decisions that you can make, and they're informed decisions. And again, I had to just really listen to myself and honor that that was not something I, um, you know, if there was an emergency or whatever, I would have done it, right? But it's not something that there were people who could do it. And it also would give my dad a break. I'm like, Dad, you have, getting her dressed is hard enough,
It's a
right?
lot.
You don't need, and he was in his 80s. He doesn't need to be, doing that and hurting himself. Where does that leave us, right?
Yeah. What good does that do anybody?
Right. So, and those were hard conversations. I mean, they were married for 62 years,
Absolutely.
and, he was going to keep her home as long as possible, and he did. And,
Yeah.
so, but it was interesting because it was becoming a time where he was looking to have her,
Hmm.
probably put into a memory care,
Sure.
facility when the pandemic hit. Right. And so, it was, I am just as, like, I heard Dr. Phil introducing a life coach. This played out how it should have. It was a lot quicker than we expected.
Mhm.
But you know, it it could have been a lot worse.
Right.
Um,
It played out how it was supposed to.
exactly.
And you lean into that, right? You lean into that and not into the guilt, the questioning. Ain't nobody got time for that. Lean into this was how it was supposed to happen.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's what I like to help people go through. So if they feel like they're making informed decisions,
Mhm.
then there's less of that regret or should have,
Right.
I should have done, it was really that the right thing. There's less of that along the way.
Absolutely. And one final question, Beth. What would you tell, what do you know now, or what would you tell yourself now? Okay, let me rejudge this a little bit. What would you say to someone that is just like their parent just got a diagnosis, they have dementia, their parent fell, something has happened, right? To trigger the, oh my gosh, what in the heck? Knowing what you do know now, right, with your experience and education and everything, what would you say to that person that's watching and is in that situation?
First breathe. Um, and whatever you're feeling is absolutely valid.
Yeah.
Um, and I would highly recommend that they have some of those difficult conversations. I'm having them with my dad now. My brother and I are having them with my dad now. We
Good.
did not have them with my mom. We trusted my dad. And again, I think that things worked out, but there were things that I didn't know as to maybe what she really would have wanted or how, where she was at. And I, by the time I truly understood what was going on,
Mhm.
it was even harder because of where she was in the stage, right?
Same.
So if they are able to be part of making decisions,
Absolutely.
bring them in and have them be part of those decisions. Um, and that's what I've done with my dad. And I told him, I said, I'm being selfish so that when the time comes for you to go into assisted living, which I'm sure you probably won't want to do, I will feel less guilty because we will
Mhm.
have talked about what
Yeah.
situations or circumstances would trigger that transition. And I'm
Mhm.
going to hope that you're not as mad about it because you will have known you were part of the decision.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So that would be, they're not easy. And a lot of people, it's one of the number one questions I get is how do you have those? And they evolve over time. It's not like you just say, let's sit
Yeah.
down and have this
Yep.
conversation.
Yeah.
That's not going to go well.
It's not-
If you want to put all the defensive walls up, that's how you do it.
That's a surefire way to do it. So, Beth, thank you so much. Great advice. And to get in touch with you, what's a good way to do that?
Yeah. You can reach me at Beth at withinyoucoaching.com, and that's WITHIN the letter U coaching.com, or you can go to my website, which is www.withinyoucoaching.com, and there's a contact page in there. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook, so
Perfect. And
lots
don't
of
worry
ways to get me.
yeah, if you didn't write any of that down, don't worry, because it'll all be in the description, how to get a hold of Beth. As always, my contact information will be in the description as well. And Beth, thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy.
Okay, take care.
You too.